your body out of prison. Holla at your God, stay true to your religion. When you're working with your unity, no time for the division. But who the opposition? So who the hell you spinning on? They breaking arms while you drilling all them in the moms. They sending bombs to the US, wanna bring us home. I see China taking over like this Red Dawn. They made bricks so they can trade without the dollar bond. They made bricks, they got tired of the Tron long. Vladimir Putin, Ukraine shooting. One new pop off, the world gon' lose it. You can't give power to a coward, he'll abuse it. You can't give power to the youth that misuse it. Young lions from the ghetto, hot temper like a ghetto. Change your mindset from putting switches on that metal. That ego and the pride to turn the body into pedal. So I be in my lane, gently pushing on the pedal. We can pop champagne or take it on my rattle. We can mix it with the priv, add the ice from the bezel now. G's up, bro, they hoes down. That bitch can't swim, that bitch gon' drown. Fire from the pound, knock them all down. Bodies on the ground, soldiers all around. mRNA, my fool going through it. The AI replacing employment movement. Them ribs get touchy, now they clutchy, now I'm booming. They looking for a victim, they riding around Truman. I don't know who raised them or what they consuming. They taught them how to blaze them things instead of grooming. High speed police chases, they steady zooming. Men, woman, and child defiled by foul human.
If Big Wayne ain't record or mix my shit, I don't want you touching my shit.
Sometimes I feel off, think about giving up, but I think about my kids and all the shit I did. I can't take that back. Now all I got is consequences, whole stabbing me in my back. Started having these deep thoughts. Sometimes I feel off, think about giving up, but I think about my kids and all the shit I did. I can't take that back. Now all I got is consequences, whole stabbing me in my back. I lapsed in them drugs, I almost gave up. Thought everybody was talking about, they tried to show me love. Did a lot of dirty shit, hit the ones I really love. Attitude fucked up, living with a lot of guilt. Cause my sister got killed, she died in front of me. She died in front of me, this pain run deep. Long nights don't sleep, I'm tossing and turning.
Man, ooh, man, I got something for y'all, man. Know y'all ain't, you know what I'm saying? I know y'all been waiting on me shit like that. Alright, back at y'all, man. My birthday today, man. Y'all turn me up, man. You know what I'm saying? I want to give a shout out to myself. Shit, man. It's been a grind, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? My day, you feel me? Y'all niggas turn up 14, you know what I'm saying? Let's get it. Hey.
That's how I'm feeling when I'm chillin', in my mind on the milli. I can't let the devil get me, gotta keep that fire with me, in my left pocket. Hollow tip for make a halo, if a nigga wanna play though. I just put a 3 up in the 20, shit that they like Play-Doh. I hit her one time, she came back just like a yo-yo. Used to get full of Momo, pulling up on a nigga like you remember me. I ain't gotta say nothing, money talk for me. Last thing on my mind is my enemy. I just made a big road playing Boosie B. And that fun thing with the leather seats. If I pay for the pussy, this shit ain't for me. Remember getting full of them drugs and starting beefs. To come to think about it, them niggas didn't really like me. I'm fly just like a bird and let me pop my shit. I just flew past a hater in my foreign bitch. I'm going in like a drop kick. Plus I'm longer than a mouse stick. Niggas throwing salt, riding dick. Solo till I go, I'm on my fast shit. Fuck her but don't love her on my mad shit. Let's keep it street, you ain't street, you just walked in. I ain't trying gangster around 20, you need to stop tripping. I had a heart on my time, penny. It's a crazy world that we living. Click full of soldiers, but who will it with you? When the shit hit the fan, he your co-defendant. Sometimes I feel lost in this dirty world. Free my nigga Earl, I just wanna make it home to see my sons and my girl. If it's a problem, put that pussy on a check. I want my respect, put diamonds on my neck, while me flex. I hear the nigga rapping, they lame it in the bit. All on the ground, and every nigga pick, they be capping. I really got it out the mud. Hoes, they be ratchet. They gon' love you when they come. Them thoughts don't get a crumb. Serving dope the bone. Trying to come up. My cousin fucked the dope up. I couldn't trust the soul. Fell in love with these hoes. I guess I'm cutthroat. Remember my cousin Tim, snorting the ounce of dope. Every time I'm in my time, I gotta hit my cousin smoke. Never catch him, bro. We gotta get it going. My cousin Nene, she gon' ride for me. You better get that bitch, she try to slide for me. Niggas on the move, niggas love to leech. My brother told me when I rap, it sound like I be preaching. I told him it's a blessing. Hope these niggas get the message.
Pump your belly. Two.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to another edition of If They Only Knew. It's your boy Joe Chapo back in the building. We got another special guest. Kind of going in and out like a ghost and shit, but work with me. Got the green screen going on. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Brother Rigney, Winfield Hood II.
Okay. Let me turn up my volume a little bit so they can hear. All right. So now me and you actually never met. I reached out to you online because my sister came to me and she told me that you have an interesting story and she thinks the fans would definitely appreciate what you've been through and where you're at right now. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me, what led you down this path?
Well, I was first must say I started off very young. I've been on both sides of life. I could say I've been on the good side and I've been on the evil side. Growing up always around people of power, people of stature, both on the good and evil side. I've seen a lot of things. I've heard a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. I've seen people growing up in the mafia, the mob around where I grew up and where I lived, gangsters, pimps. I've seen all of that, and usually.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from Orange, New Jersey. Orange, East Orange, North New Jersey, straight out of New Jersey.
Okay.
But I grew up mainly in Orange, New Jersey, East Orange area. Hung out in North New Jersey. Rode all over through North New Jersey, Patterson, Jersey City, all of those areas, back and forth to New York and all of that. Okay. Like I said, I've been on both sides of life. Basically, I had a good childhood life, believe it or not. I've been in military school when I was younger. Started flying planes actually before I could drive cars at the age of 10. Wow. I just been around power all my life. Okay. Power was nothing to me. My life was basically money, power, sex. That was my lifestyle.
Okay.
I misused. This is what I think. This is the thing that I would definitely emphasize on. I misused and abused the power that God has given. I would say God gives power. He gives power to people, and we abuse it by giving into certain things that Satan puts in our way. It makes us think that it's cool or good.
Yep.
By the age of 10 years old, I was paralyzed from the neck down from turning my heart away from God. Wow. From a lot of the things that I've seen and done. Like I said, I grew up around mobsters, gangsters. I've seen them in my neighborhood. My first introduction to the street life or the mafia, the Cosa Nostra, the Camare, whatever, all of those type of things they was call it, was from a woman who was like a grandmother to me and my sisters growing up. Okay. Her name was Old Lady Rosa Treasure. She ran a junkyard in our area growing up, which was around the corner from my house. She was my first indoctrination to the street life, to organized crime. Old lady that people would never think was the head of the mafia, so to speak. And running
she was doing her job right. Because nobody knew.
I could tell you a little funny story how I knew and how I began to know that she was the head of the mafia. One day, my sisters and I, we were coming home from school. And, she loved my little youngest sister, Dawn, the most. Everybody called her Hollywood. And we were coming home from school, and not too far from where my church is. My church is just a couple of doors down from the junkyard. And where my daughter's mother lives now, an old lady used to live back when we were kids, and she had a dog, and she would let the dog out to bother the kids in the neighborhood. So one day the dog actually came at my younger sister and tried to attack my younger sister. And old lady Treasure came down the street, which was only a couple of feet. And she said, "Not my babies." And she shot the dog 3 times in the head.
Damn.
And that was the first of my indoctrination to street crime. You know, I started running for her, started running things for her. She would tell me, take certain packages down the street or take certain packages to people. She would always give me money. She always gave me and my sisters money to go to the store. But then it got to where she was giving me more money to do certain things. And as I got older, I got more cockier. I started adapting to what I saw, what I thought was the life. Seeing mobsters and seeing the Italians in my neighborhood, thinking that was the life to live, the fast life with the fast cars, the fast women, the pretty clothes, and those things. And then I started seeing certain drug dealers growing up in my neighborhood, and I thought those were the guys, those were the people. I started living that lifestyle. By the time I was 16, I was hanging in and out of strip clubs like I was going to church every Sunday. That was my life. Money, power, sex was my life.
Yeah.
I've been around the entertainment industry. As a matter of fact, around the time where I started meeting your sister, I walked away from the entertainment industry. It was just certain things that I was not going to do in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2018, 2019. I walked away from the entertainment industry. I was not going to portray dressing up like a woman or portray being a faggot.
I was going to ask you, is there anything in particular that, forced you or pushed you away from entertainment? So that was one of the main reasons why you left, because
One of the main things, yes. That was one of the main things. Like I said, back in 2018, 2019, I was going back and forth to New York on 34th Street to a modeling agency, modeling. They was going to put me back on the radio. They were going to put me on certain TV shows and movies. And as a matter of fact, they were going to put me on Empire.
That's what's up.
And the question came up, would I act like a faggot?
Yeah.
Me, I can act. I could portray anything.
Yeah.
I could portray anything.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to act like a faggot, and I'm not going to put on a dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once you start that in the industry, that's what they portray you, and that's what they're going to look at you as.
Yeah.
And you're going to look like a sucker.
Yeah.
And with me, I just couldn't do it. I'd never forget it. Certain female asked me that question coming home. And even while I was over there doing a photo shoot, the question was asked to me. And I was the only straight guy in the room at the time.
Yeah, the media and entertainment, they're definitely trying to normalize the homosexuality and
yes, there's a conscious effort to feminize the black man and the minority man. When I say black man, I mean Latinos, all of us. There's a conscious effort right now to feminize us.
Yeah.
In every level, every walk that you see. I'm not going to put guys that portray women characters, like Medea and all of those type of characters. I'm not going to put them down.
Yeah.
But that's just not
I
my
mean, it's
foot.
entertainment, to each his own. I have no problem with anybody that deals with,
Exactly.
you know, the same sex or whatever. To each his own. That's
Exactly.
by all
Exactly.
means. But
Exactly.
I'm just not for pushing your agenda or
Exactly.
your lifestyle. I mean, don't try to push
Exactly.
it on me. You can live your lifestyle by all means.
Exactly.
Do it, but
And
don't try to
that's the
push it
way
on
I
me.
am. That's the way I am too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to portray or push a lifestyle that an image that I'm not going to be about.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I walked away from the entertainment business, music and acting, because a lot of entertainers nowadays portray the image of gangster,
Mhm.
pimp, or you know, bitches and hoes.
Yeah.
You know, that's the image that the secret societies want us to think of ourselves,
Mhm.
the lower levels, to think of yourself.
Mhm.
You know, the government, supremacy, white supremacy, they want you thinking of yourself
Mhm.
as a thug or a gangster, a pimp,
Yeah.
a bitch, or a hoe. And like I was saying, and I'm gonna give my type of testimony. As I started growing up and started seeing certain people in my around me, that's the image I started living and started
Mhm.
trying to portray. That thug life, thinking thug life was the life, or the gang life, you know, thinking it was the
Yeah.
life to live.
So
You know,
let's go back to that. Let's go back. So you say when you were 16, you was pretty much on top of the world. You was living your best life. So you
yeah,
felt.
yes.
Um.
At 16, I was in both legal and illegal business. Um, at 16, I would not lie. My mother's hearing right now. She's hearing. So some things she knows and some things she
Yeah.
doesn't know. At 16, I was selling weed and pills, mainly.
Now,
Weed
were
and
you selling
pills.
for the Italians, or
Uh, well,
you were saying it
yeah,
was the Italians pretty much ran your
I was
neighborhood?
working with the Italians, or I had the Italians connection,
Okay.
the Italian connection. But basically, I was moving on my own. They was like some of my connects and things
Yeah.
like that. You know,
Oh.
I was also in legalized businesses. I was in telecommunications at the age of 16,
Okay.
which I still am in telecommunication. I was running for a company called American Communications Network and Five Links International. I was in the telecommunications, and money was no object to me. Money was no object. I can always get money, and I always was getting money like that.
So it seems like you was on the borderline of the street life and the legit life.
Yeah, living a double life,
You was living a
basically.
double life. So
Living a double life.
it's so funny because you would think the street life would be calling you more than the legit life, you know, especially something like telecommunications. You know, not everybody's built for that. You know, it's a numbers game, repetitive, you know, sales.
Well,
But
I'm a, I'm a, I'm
street
a,
life, you know, quick
I'm gonna
little
put it
sale, you
like,
got a big lump of some money, you go shopping, you know,
oh yeah,
you can
I'm
live
gonna
that
put it
life
to
you
you
want to
like
live.
this. The things I got into was because I wanted to get into. Like I
Yeah.
said, certain things that I saw, certain things that appealed to me, I thought that was the life to live.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for my mother teaching me and raising me and teaching me the Bible, it's old scripture that says, train up a child in the way they should go. When they get old, they will not depart from it. Though they may stray, though they may go do certain things, that word of truth is in them. And it will always drive them back to what they need to be or where they need to be. And if it wasn't for my mother, if it wasn't for people like my mother who were praying for me, keeping me in their prayers, and my mother teaching me the Bible, I would definitely be a whole lot worse than what I was.
So
And
you
I
was
would
you was
definitely,
raised by the Bible. You was raised in
I
church,
was raised by the Bible.
but you
I
still
lived,
was getting,
I
you know,
lived
feeling
it,
the street life.
but I was a backslider. Constantly in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And I I basically, like I said, I've been on all walks of life. I've been on all sides. I've seen a lot of power. I even worked within the court systems. I worked in the court systems for 10 years, you know, and it got to that point where I was against the court systems, you know.
So
So
tell me what led you to the road of being incarcerated? What was the last straw? Like, did you ever get arrested prior to that? Were you getting just caught up on the block on little stuff, getting in and out, or was this your first time?
I'm gonna tell you, I had run-ins with the law, but I never got arrested at that time. I don't know if you ever heard of the Zoo Crew. The Zoo Crew was a crew out of Newark, New Jersey. They were some guys that were drug dealers, but they also were educated guys. They were like black revolutionists. They ran with the Black Panthers. They were educated. They knew law. They learned the law. And I was a part of them. I was a part of that, and I was part of a bunch of guys that was civilized activists. We would go to a lot of city hall, town hall meetings, raise cane. And we would talk about a lot of things that was going on in our communities. We were considered threats. We were constantly being watched and constantly being surveilled. And like I said, I ran with street guys. I ran with street gangs and things like that. Around where I grew up, we would call 108, 325, 235. Some connections with the Blood Street gangs, some connection with Latin Kings and Latin Queens. Those are the more popular gangs at my time growing up.
Yeah,
those are more popular. We basically were being surveilled a lot by the police, the federal government, for a lot of the political activations that we were doing and things like that. So, like I said, I started just going backwards. I started living thug life and thinking the thug life was the fast life, because with thug life or with the fast life came fast girls, fast women, you know. And when you have money, when you have power, it attracts a certain type of female and attracts certain people. And I started, like I said, I was going into strip clubs very young.
Yeah.
I had family that was running strip clubs. I had family that was in the lifestyle already as well. I had friends who ran and owned clubs. So that was my lifestyle. It became my lifestyle quickly and easy. Run-ins with the law. My first run-in with the law was after one of my friends got killed and I was at his funeral. And I was coming home and an incident happened with a police officer. And I basically got into an argument with the officer, and he gave me a ticket to come to court. Now, how things started taking a turn, I was very cocky and arrogant at times. I was the type of person, you talk junk to me, I talk junk back to you and then back down. Okay? My first time in trouble with the law and in court was for actually taking a leak in the street. And it was Cory Booker's father. He was the judge.
Oh, wow.
He fined me a $250 fine, and he was talking, very slick out his mouth. He said, I'm going to be the Grinch that steals your Christmas. I said, really? He said, oh, so you think you're a wise ass? I said, you said, not me. I'm just like Jesus Christ, And I had that mentality like that at that time, I'm thinking, I'm talking righteous, and yet I was talking foolish, And he said, it'll be $250 fine. I said, how you want it? Cash, check, or money order? He said, any would do. And I threw $500 cash in his face and said, keep the change, and walked out the courtroom. And at that time, I had a couple of female friends from around the way that worked for the courts. They came out and said, what are you, crazy? Don't never do nothing like that. I said, hey, you know what it is. Money ain't a thing to me. I said, this ain't nothing. This is thug life right here. And he called me back in the courtroom. And I'll never forget what he told me. I'll never forget this. He said, look, young man, he said, it's a sad thing that you're a smart young man, but a wise fool. He said, don't you ever do that. He said, don't you ever in your life throw money to the law, because they'll break you.
Yeah.
And they sure enough broke me, because right there things started taking a spiral effect with me. I had law enforcement constantly trying to find something to get me on, trying
You
to
was on the
find
map
something
now. You was on the map. You made yourself a
you know,
target out there. Fuck with a judge.
yeah.
Woo. Yeah.
I basically made a target for myself, like you said, and then I constantly started being checked and surveilled. Honestly, and I'll tell you like this: the things that I was doing, I never got caught doing. But then a couple of times, I would tell you, yes, I was driving in stolen cars, and I used to do driving stolen cars. That was just the lifestyle in North New Jersey, stolen car country.
That was big on stealing cars out in Jersey, man.
Yeah.
Big on that.
And once I got in trouble with the law enforcement again in East Orange, New Jersey, they put a charge on me for driving a stolen car and having kids in the stolen car. You know, younger folk, younger than me. They hit me with conspiracy. And that's when things started taking that effect of going to jail. You know, going back and forth to jail. You know, once you get an SBI, it's the hardest thing to get rid of. Once you get an SBI number, a state number and a federal number, it's the hardest thing to get rid of in your life, because that's basically a slave number or a slave name.
So at that point, you was catching little charges. You was run-ins with the law. You was more of a target. You was more known. So after that, at some point, they finally got you and they sat you down for a while. So what led you to actually doing time?
What led to me actually doing time is basically assaults, terrorist threats of violence, assaulting people. Okay. The longest I ever did was 3 years behind bars, and that was in county jail, Essex County Jail. Okay. That was the longest. I also was charged for strong arm robbery.
Oh wow!
Strong arm robbery and conspiracy. Conspiracy in New Jersey carries 10 years automatic. It carries 10 years automatic if you found guilty.
Yeah.
And or if you take a plea to whatever plea they put. It's 10 years automatic. But if you take it to trial, you go to court, that's 10 years automatic plus the actual charge. And second degree robbery, first degree robbery is 10 years automatic in Jersey as well.
Yeah, it's out
so
here.
I was facing a 20 with an 85. 20 with an 85. I would have had to do 19 and a half years.
Damn.
I would have had to do 19 and a half years.
So did you have a paid lawyer or excuse me, or public?
I had a public lawyer, but she was a good paid lawyer. I also paid her. I made sure that I paid her. That's how I actually met her. Her name was Celeste Dudley. You know, she fought for me and managed to get me 3.5 years probation as well, plus the time served already from sitting behind bars. You know?
So let me ask you this: prior to the 3.5 years, what was the longest amount of time you was locked up or incarcerated, or whatever?
Prior to the 3.5 years, I say a year or 364.
Okay. So
prior to that was 36 days.
Okay. So you get the 3.5 years. Now, when you got sent up, was this a huge difference from just doing the year, the 36, was this like now with the big boys? Did you hit the pound
I didn't leave Essex County Jail. I didn't go downstate. I didn't go down to prison. Okay. So that's the thing. A lot of people don't know there's a difference between prison and jail. I was in the Essex County Jail. I stayed in the Essex County Jail. Now, Essex County has different parts. They have different parts. They have the county. They have the local, which is North Police Department's local jail. They have the county. They have the federal, and they have state. And sometimes they put all of you together. I was in maximum security. They had me in maximum security gang unit with state and federal prisoners. You know, so one reason why they had me in the state unit or state gang unit is because prior to that, when I was in jail before then, I was charged for inciting a riot to a massive crowd of people.
So you had
what happened? That was in a private detention center called Delaney Hall in North New Jersey. A young man, he was jumped by the fake correctional officers or the mentors. That's what they're called. They're not really called correctional officers because it was a private jail. The counselors is what they call them.
Counselors.
They jumped him, and he was a Muslim brother, and then also he was a blood brother as well. So when we found out that it was a Muslim brother and blood brother, of course, you know, it raised tension. They called a house meeting. They called a house meeting out, and we called the house meeting to address the situation with the administration. And they, you know, were trying to downplay it. And I told them, no, you're not going to downplay it. We're not moving. We're not going to move until this is dealt with. So that right there, I got charged for inciting a riot. And they hit me with the Gang Law Act. The Gang Law Act is basically where you have 3 or more people that's considered a crowd or a gang. And they hit me with the Gang Law Act. You figure you have 750 guys, you know, in one area.
Yeah.
And they all united for one cause. That's considered inciting a riot. And the riot actually spread it throughout the East Coast. You know, it was a war between law enforcement, the correctional facilities, the Bloods, the Muslims, and the Latin Kings, the MS-113s, and even Crips started getting involved with.
So everybody got together behind it. That's what's up, man. So, I mean, in the end, did you guys get what you wanted, or
almost definitely we got what we wanted? They actually put me back in. They sent me back to the county, to Essex County Jail, and I had to stay at lockup. I had to stay in lockup until the tension died down, and that was basically for like 3 days. You know, 3 days. They even came back and forth to me to ask me to keep the tension down. I had to go before a board to talk about the situation, what happened, and I told them the situation. And thank God they dropped the charges because I was really facing some serious charges. See, that's one thing people don't understand. Just because you go to jail or prison, you can still catch charges behind bars as well.
Yeah.
You know.
So was those considered outside charges or?
No, that would be considered inside
prison
charges.
Okay.
Inside charges from the correctional inside prison or inside jail.
Yeah.
That would be considered extra charges, and it could run with the original charge what you were in jail for. You know. So.
Okay, so after the riot incident, that obviously elevated your security level. So when you went and you finally did the 3 years, you stayed and you was in a higher level because of
maximum security. Yeah, I went. Okay. They put me in maximum security gang unit. When they did that, they sent me to building 3. Okay, each building in Essex County Jail is considered a certain type of building. I was in building 2 at first, which was minimum and medium security. Okay. Then they transferred me to building 3. They had to flip the whole jail around. And building 3 was considered or called, and it's still called, Saddam Hussein's Little Iraq, because it's off the hook in building 3.
Yeah.
Building 3 at that time was all Bloods and Latin Kings and MS-113s. They were not letting Crips in building 3.
Damn.
They will make you check in straight from the door. As soon as they open up the gate, they're going to check to see if you're a gang member. They're going to find out what type of gang member you were.
Yeah.
You know, it was no lying. It was no lying about what you were, you know.
So the Bloods and the Latin Kings, all them, they tied flags, and then anybody else, they were sending them out.
Oh yeah, they'll let you know from the door. They'll come straight to you. And some of them ask you like, "Yo, what's popping? What's popping?" Or "Yo, you straight blood? You banging?" You know, they would ask you all types of questions. At that time in Essex County Jail too, they had computers. They had the computers. They had the computers that the correctional officers were using. So they would go to the correctional officers and ask them to pull up your information as well. Find out where you live, what your charges were, stuff like that, you know, and to see if you was a Blood or a Crip or a Latin King or whatever, you know. One big rule was we didn't let rapists come in our daggone units. Or what we call tree jumpers. We call it tree jumpers. That's the code for a rapist. He wasn't coming in the unit.
Yeah.
You know, he was getting beat up from the door.
So let me ask you this. What's the craziest thing you think you've seen in there?
Oh, the craziest thing I ever seen. I'll tell you straight off the bat. My second time being locked up. It was going to court. And at that time, the Essex County Jail was just opening up. And they transfer you from the Essex County Jail to the old Essex County Jail in the bullpens. And I entered in the bullpen, and I seen a couple of guys I grew up with, and a couple of my homies. They just came home. A couple of them just came home. Yeah. My man, Killer Reek. We call him Killer Reek. His name is Al Tariq. But we call him Killer Reek in the block. My man Hawk and my man Hell Rel. They was in there. They were members of the Bloods, and they greeted me and talked to me. And then sheriff's officers was bringing in a known rapist in the county in New Jersey. And they said, "Yeah, you like raping women, you like raping kids and stuff like that. Yeah, we about to throw you in it." So my boys was like, "Yo, you just heard what they said?" I said, "Yeah, I heard this." They said, "Yo, we about to run down on them." I said, "Oh God, it's about to go down." Right. So as soon as they opened up the gate, there's like a little gate before you enter into the bullpen that they push you in, and then they close that gate, and then they open up the big gate. As soon as he came in, my man Killer Reek punched him straight in his jaw. His eyeball fell out.
Damn.
I kid you not. That's how hard my man hit him. He hit him so hard.
Damn.
He hit him so hard that I saw the black and blue for the brother, man.
Shit.
Hit him so hard, his eyeball literally fell out, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting like, oh my God.
I might have been traumatized off that shit right there, yeah.
My man Hawk, this is one reason why they start taking boots from people behind the Essex County Jail. Stop taking the boots and the sneakers. People was getting their sneakers and boots taken from them or robbed from their boots and stuff. But my man, this is one reason why. My man Hawk kicked him in the head so hard that he had a Timberland print on his face, man.
Damn.
So, and then to top it off, he tried to hold on to me, like to help him. So I had to hook off on him too, man. You know,
damn.
Before you know it, all the gang members from the back of the bullpen is coming out like, "Yo, what's going on? What's going on?" So my boy Hell Rel was like, "Yeah, he's a rapist. So you got 200 guys beating the hell out of you." And then one dude said, "Yo, if you don't pop off, we gonna pop off for you." So now you got 500 dudes beating the hell out of you.
Yeah.
From every angle of the daggone cell.
Rape? Yeah, he's a rapist.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So that was one of the craziest things I ever seen or heard. I've seen folk get poked up.
What was the stupidest shit you seen people get into it over? Like the most dumbest shit that caused somebody to either lose their life or get hurt over? Most simplest or dumbest thing? Like,
okay, all right. Let's go back to when they moved me into building 3. When they moved me into building 3, they put me in the middle of in the middle of a war between the Bloods and the Muslims. Okay? And they said to me, since you like causing riots, and since you think you Mr. Tough Guy, try to deal with this. We were locked down for a whole week. Okay? In the middle of a riot. The unit I was in, it was 3C113. That was my cell, 3C. It was all tore up. Tore up. From the floor up, man. It was tore up. Yeah. I had to go in, clean my cell out, man. You know, because they tore the cell up. They moved all the so-called vicious people. They moved everybody around.
Yeah.
Okay? So we were locked down for a whole week. And they started opening up certain cells at a time, like four cells at a time. 4 up top, 4 on the bottom. To go out, stay out for at least maybe like an hour, and then you lock back in. So I asked, yo, what we locked down for? What's going on? And they said they were fighting over who's going to be in charge of the kitchen. I said, are y'all serious? I said, y'all fighting over this BS food. And they was like, yeah. I said, look, we got to come to a resolution on this right now so we can get out these cells. So I told them, look, this is the resolution. You get 3 Muslim guys to be in the kitchen and 3 blood guys to be in the kitchen. That way, everybody sees who's getting what and monitoring the food. And you don't have to worry about this group is getting more food than us and this group is not getting more food than us. Okay?
That's fair.
Finally, it worked for a while. Okay? But like I said, building 3, maximum security was always off the hook.
Yeah.
Okay? It was always off the hook. I never forget, the Spanish brothers came to me because the Spanish brothers thought I was Spanish because I look Spanish. They, you know, they told me as soon as all the whole unit started opening up, they said, look, Holmes, you need to carry a banger. Okay, okay. And I said, no, I'm good. I don't need no banger. You know, boom. And I never forget this one. I was in the gym because like everything was right there in your pod. I was in the gym. I was punching on the punching bag, and it was about time to get ready to lock in again for the afternoon count. And I went back to my cell. My hands was bleeding. And I thought it was just because I was punching that punching bag so hard all day.
Yeah.
But the correction officer went in and found the shank in the punching bag because it was about to be a hit on somebody. So they locked us back down. They came to me because they saw me in the gym and they saw me on the punching bag. They asked me, did I know anything about it? I said, no, I don't know nothing about no shank. Okay? So they did a shakedown. They did a shakedown in the whole unit. And just about everybody had a shank. There was shanks all over the whole unit. Everybody had at least 2 shanks to themselves, at least 2. Okay? And the whole unit had shanks, man. The dumbest thing I ever saw was a young man get himself knocked out by a faggot. And I'm not going to tell you.
Man, they be forgetting these dudes. They dudes at the end of the day. They still men.
Yeah.
You see them dressed up or whatever, acting feminine. These still men under there, yeah.
Well, to top it off, I'll go even deeper. The guy's name was Cupcake. That was his name. And he's well known. He's very well known. His name is Cupcake. Now, the young dude was about 18. He was a blood, you know, talking that dumb junk, you know, blood, I'm this, and that. So, you know, he figured because Cupcake was a fag, he could, you know, intimidate him.
Yeah.
So Cupcake knocked him straight through the clean cold out his shoes. Okay? Not knowing that Cupcake was state boxing champ in the prison. And so you gotta be careful who you deal with. Okay?
Exactly.
You gotta be careful who you deal with behind bars. You know. Like I said, I've seen a lot of things.
Motherfucker, yeah. Damn, yeah.
I've seen people hang themselves.
Damn.
I've seen all types of stuff, man. I've seen people get thrown off the top tier for fighting and stuff, man. Like, I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all.
Damn, man. That's just the jail.
Yep.
Man.
You know, see, believe it or not, Essex County Jail is considered, they call it the Green Monster. Okay? And that's just Essex County. You got Hudson County, you got Union County, you got Passaic County, you got all these county jails, and then you got the regular jails. Okay? They were telling me if I get convicted and do my 20 with an 85, they were going to send me to Trenton State. Trenton is the toughest and roughest prison in the country. Okay? They were telling me they were going to send me to Trenton, or they were going to send me to Eastern State, which is Rawway. Okay? Rawway is where my grandfather came from. My grandfather was in Rawway. His name rang bells. To this day, his name still ring bells. Me going to jail was never a problem. Like, a lot of people would say, "Oh, it's a problem." Like, I'll tell you, me going to jail because of who my grandfather was, I didn't have any problems.
Yeah.
Okay. And honestly, like I said, a lot of people I knew. My first time behind bars is like going to a high school reunion. Okay. And from there on, it was like going to a high school reunion or a family reunion. As a matter of fact, my last time behind bars, 2007, I couldn't even get into the county jail.
Wow.
I couldn't even get in the county. The county was overcrowded, number one, because they started combining Essex and Union County together. And two, when I got in the building, I couldn't even get a bed like that. I had to stay downstairs. in the processing area, because everywhere they tried to put me, I had a family member. That's sad. Yeah. And I couldn't even get in the building like that. So they moved me to another private detention center, which is called Logan Hall, which is not too far. And I was getting ready to go into the unit that I was assigned to, and my little cousin was in there. So they had to remove me from that unit to another unit, you know. So, but those were some of the things that made me start changing and coming back. Reality.
Now, that's what I was asking you. So you coming up on the end of your bid. Now, were you already starting these changes, or did you just ride it out, and then when you came out, you started making changes?
I started because, number one, honestly, also me, I was never the type to hang around a lot of young people or people my age, okay? Especially even behind bars, okay? One thing I learned, and I learned this my first time behind bars, and I would say this to young people, period. Never offend anybody in the streets. Be careful who you offend and be careful who you deal with in the streets. Treat everybody with respect. There was a certain guy that I always used to look out for, okay? He was a bum. He was a homeless guy in the streets. Other guys in the streets, especially the drug dealers, would smack him up, take advantage of him. Me, I would give him money. I would buy him food. I would do things like that because I was always that type of person. Yeah. Treat people with respect. So when I first got locked up, I was getting food and stuff like that, extra food. Now, like I said, I had family members and I had friends who were always behind bars, and they told me the rules. Look, don't you do this. Don't accept this. Don't do that. Don't do this. Yeah. So when I was getting extra stuff, I'm like, yo, where this coming from? Who this coming from? Yeah. And I never forget it. I was getting breakfast early in the morning, and guys is putting a lot of food on my tray. And at the end of the line, I'm like, yo, why are y'all giving me all this food? Some of the guys I knew, but the guy who was running the kitchen, he came to me and said, yo, I'm the one giving you the extra stuff, man. I said, yo, what you giving me this extra stuff for? He's like, yo, you don't remember who I am. You don't know who I am. I said, who are you? Who are you? He said, yo, remember the homeless man that you always used to give food and stuff to? He said, that's me. He said, now I'm giving my respect and my love back to you. Okay? So he started taking me under his wing, and a lot of the other older heads, the old heads would started taking me under their wing because they saw that I had some knowledge, some smarts to myself. Like I said, I've been on both sides. Okay? I also had legal experience.
Yeah.
I dealt with the law. I was in school for law as well. So I've been on both sides.
Yeah.
So the old heads told me, look, you're not going to be around here like these little young, dumb motherfuckers playing cards all day long, on the phone all day long, smoking, doing this, doing that. You're going to get yourself in this law library, and you're going to learn how to play the system like they playing you. Okay? The old heads had to tell me, look, don't you ever start throwing money at no judges, and don't ever pay off your daggone fees, your court fines and fees right away.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that's what I used to do. I used to, bam, throw this money at the law, and they give me off probation or parole right away. You know? The old heads told me, don't you ever do that, because your name will always be in the system. Your name will always be in the system. So I started learning from the older heads how to move and how to operate behind bars. And like the old heads would tell me, look at these younger ones that's also supposed to be the flyest niggas on the block. Look how they can't survive in here. But the ones that be the bad dudes on the block, or the messed up and ashy ones on the block, could survive behind bars. So I started hanging around the old heads, learning and seeing, okay, this is how you survive behind bars. This is this. This is that. This is how you move. Okay.
Now, do you feel like those moves was also preparing you for the outside as well?
Almost definitely. Because they kept telling me, you're going to get your butt back out there on them streets, and you're going to teach the younger ones that's out there the right way, including guys that I was running with. I know a lot of people that are behind bars for life and not coming home. Yeah. I know a lot of guys that's doing 20, 30, 40 years. Like I said, but for the grace of God, it could have been me.
Yeah.
I was facing 20 with an 85. 85%. 85 means, anytime you hear that in New Jersey, 85 with an 85, that means violent crimes.
Yeah.
Okay? Violent Crimes Act. I was facing that. I would have had to do 19 and a half years. And they were telling me with no
you know that 19 gonna turn about 25 and shit, you know, you go the wrong way.
Exactly. And they were telling me with no possibility of parole. Okay? And then far more, they were telling me they don't expect me to live. They were telling me, oh, we're going to put you in with the roughest of guy. We're going to put you down Trenton. We're going to put you in Railway with the guys facing death row. We're going to make, because like I said, I was a cocky dude.
Yeah.
So the old heads was teaching me. And I've been behind bars with some Black Panthers as well. So they were schooling me and teaching me and showing me and preparing me to get myself and my mind right. Okay? Because it's all a mind condition. Everything is a mind condition. You know, I've seen guys break just being behind the doors, man.
Yeah.
The roughest times in prison, or in jail is quarantine. Going through process, quarantine, where you lock down 23 hours a day.
Yeah. A
lot of people can't deal with that, being locked down. Okay?
Because you locked down, just trapped with your thoughts, your mind, man. Nothing but time.
That's all you have. Or being locked down, period. Yeah. Being on lockdowns where nothing's moving, and then being in lockup. Going to lockup, ASAP. The whole solitary. A lot of people can't deal with that. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to shift their mind.
So what was it like at the first time you went to solitary and had to deal with that?
Okay. The first time I had to learn how to condition my mind and change my mind. Okay. Because it's a mental thing. Yes, it's a mental thing, because all you have is that little bed or no bed, wherever they put you.
Yeah.
Sometimes a dark room, the lights come on when they put the lights on, feed you when they want to feed you.
Yeah.
Let you come out when they want you to come out to either take a shower or you don't take no showers at all.
Yeah.
Until they say it's time for you to come out that hole. Okay? You have to learn how to condition your mind and change your own way of thinking.
Yeah.
Okay? When I was doing the 3 years, like I said, in building 3, the majority of the times we was constantly locked down because there was always something going on in maximum security. Always. It got to a point where I would lock my own cell door. They open up my cell door, I lock it. Boom. I'm not coming out. It got to that point. And the guys, yo, man, you ain't coming out. You come on, man. You don't want to come play no cards. You don't want to do this. You want nah, man. Boom. And I had an older head. His name was Johnny Holmes, who was an old head in my cell with me. And he was telling me, look, you going to get back in that law library. You're going to get into your case. You're going to beat your case. You're going to learn how to beat this case. Certain things the police messed up on or said that wasn't right. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to find the loopholes to beat your case.
So while you making these changes and not even hanging out no more, just staying in your cell, the people that you was hanging out with, how were they taking that? Were they feel like, oh, now you soft, yo, like, you get it soft or anything like that?
Believe it or not, I didn't have any problems with people like that. Yeah. I didn't have people thinking, oh, I'm soft. Because like there were times when I did come out and then there was times where I just stayed in. They looked at it like, okay, oh, that's hood. Okay. I was the type of person that I didn't have to fit in with people.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't have to fit in. I can influence people. And I'm gonna tell you some things that I had to learn behind bars. And I learned behind bars. As a matter of fact, there's a picture that I constantly put up on Facebook and other social sites that I have.
Yeah.
It's me with a red long john shirt on. That's when I was in Delaney Hall being charged for inciting a riot. Okay.
Is that the one that you split screen?
Yes.
Scrubs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's actually probably what I'm going to use for the thumbnail. I'll probably use that picture, that split screen picture.
And a lot of people don't understand why I constantly put that up.
Yeah.
I put that up to constantly remind me of who I can be and what I don't want to be anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I had to learn a lot of things behind bars.
Yeah.
God had to put me there for many different reasons to learn certain things of myself. I had to learn the power of influence. Okay. I didn't realize the power of influence that I have on other people. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't the first time I actually incited a riot or was about to cause a riot. That was the second time. Okay. The first time was an incident where I thought somebody stole something from me.
Oh shit.
Okay. And in jail, that's a no-no. You consider a rat. Okay. In jail and prison, that's a no-no. You don't steal from nobody. Okay. So I told them, yo, turn the TVs off for a minute. They turned the TVs off and I said, look, yo, somebody stole something from me and my cellmate. And at that time I had a younger cellmate. I said, look, if we don't get it back by lock-in time, which was 8:30, we not locking in. We going from cell to cell and we gonna check everybody's cells until we find what's missing from the both of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank goodness by 8:25, it was back in my cell.
Okay. Magically back in the cell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what was stolen from my bunkie as well. So we started locking in. Okay. And I'll never forget this, man. It was a female correction officer. Her name was Miss Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. It was her first night working. And she said, look, I was going to call the goon squad if you don't lock in. She came to my cell personally and said, and made sure it was locked. And she said, look, I was going to call the goon squad. She said, I was scared. I said, scared for what? We weren't going to attack you. She said, no. She said, you had all these guys in this unit ready to fight one man. If that man has your stuff, everybody in here was going to fight. And you figure it's 120 people in the unit. Okay? Yeah. And she said, you don't realize the power of influence you have. And I was like, excuse, I didn't quite catch on to what she was saying at the time. Okay? But then talking to my cellmate, his name was Hawk. As a matter, that was his nickname, Hawk. He was a young blood, and he was a high-ranking blood, and we was in the same cell together, you know. He called me his OG or whatever, you know. He told me the same thing, and we chopped and were talking, and everybody started saying, look, yeah, man, you don't realize, yo, you ready to go up top? We going up top.
Yeah.
That right there had to make me start changing my way of thinking and mentality, okay? Because I started saying, look, if I do something negative, these guys are going to do something negative, and it's going to cause hell. So I had to start changing up certain things in myself in order to keep positiveness going.
Yeah.
And the cells, and the unit, period. You know?
You could have used that for good, or you could have used it for bad.
Yeah. So what I started doing, and I'm going to tell you what I started doing. I started going to the church meetings with the older heads. Like I said, the old heads, okay? It was only three old heads going to the church services, okay? So I started going to the church services with them. The younger heads would start watching, okay? The Bloods, the Bloods and the Kings, and they'd be like, yo, where he going? What he doing? Why he going in? Okay? None of them would ask me, or none of them would approach me, okay? But they would start seeing where I'm going. So then some of them start following, okay? They start following me, going to the church services. And then from there, we start praying, we start talking to them, and I start telling them, or prophesying to them, look, you're going home. You're going to beat your case. You're going to get this. You're going to get that. And then they would come back from court. Yo, I'm going home, man. My charges is dropped. This, and that. Boom, 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 boom. So then other guys are like, hold on. If he going to the church and he telling them this, that, then I'm going to start going to the church. So it started creating that connection.
Yeah.
Where people started following the good things that I was doing and not the bad things. Okay? Just last year, I heard about a young man that I know who I was locked up with. He got 30 to life. Okay? His name is Naeem. Naeem, and his nickname was Stacks Johnson. He's a high-ranking blood. He was a blood godfather of the Red Guerrilla Bloods out of North. As a matter of fact, one of the areas that I used to run. And me and him, we were locked up together. And
30 to life.
He was a cold-hearted young blood. Okay. He was constantly in fights with the officers, man.
Yeah.
I started witnessing and talking to him about God. He was very educated. See, that's the thing about people. They think that a lot of people behind bars are not educated, or drug addicts, this, and that.
That's some of the most talented people in the world is locked up.
Yeah, a lot of them are very educated, street savvy. So him and I, we talk a lot. I started talking to him about God, getting him to go to church services and the Muslim services because he was a Muslim.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that was down the road. I started just telling, it got to a point where we were also fighting over who's going to pray in certain rooms. They weren't letting the Christian guys get out to have services in Building 3. okay, and maximum security, but they were letting the Muslims have their service. So the Muslims were saying, look, if we can have our service, then they ought to be able to have their services too. Yeah. So we would take different times on going into the gym for prayers and services. Okay, it got to a point where it was conflicting. So what I did, I said, look, why don't we let y'all have one side of the gym, then we have the other side of the gym. Yeah. Okay. And we were doing that for a while. But then it got to a point where it became a threat because we started combining the services together and we started praying together. And they didn't like that unity. The correctional facility didn't like that unity. Okay. And
it's strength in numbers.
Exactly. I was becoming a threat because I was unifying people. And one of the speeches or sermons that I gave to the men, as I said, I love you. Okay? I love you, my brother. I love you. Yeah. And they started looking at me funny. I said, no, it's not on no homo stuff. I said, how come we as men, we can't say, I love you, my brother? I love you in God's name. I love you in Jesus' name. I love you in this. I said, this is what's going to cause the tension to come down in the units. By just saying, good morning, I love you, my brother. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I love you, I love you. Yeah. And when I went home, when I was released from jail after doing the 3.5 years, I heard, because guys used to call me on my phone that was still in and tell me that Naeem used to say that. He used to walk around saying, good morning, I love you. Good morning, I love you in Jesus' name. Mm-hmm. We never know the impact that we put on another person's life. Exactly. You understand what I'm saying? And exactly. A lot of people thought that he was lost because, like I said, he was cold-hearted. He's a tough dude. He ain't no punk or no slouch. Yeah. But what I was trying to get him to see as a young man, I said, look, you are a powerful young man. You are a leader of a gang at a young age and educated. Mm-hmm. Do you want your gang to end up behind these bars like you? No. Change this game up. Let's change this game up. And let's start telling these younger dudes out here in these streets, look, this is not the road to be heading down. Exactly. And of course, a lot of the Bloods was doing that. Bloods and Latin Kings was bringing that message back to the neighborhoods. And you got some that are not with that. But it, like I said, it's the mind conditioning. Yeah. Your mind conditioning and your heart. Okay. When you find God, or when you get closer to God, He gives you that mind and that compassion, that heart of compassion. Okay? A lot of people don't see jail or prison as a saving, but it can be. Yeah. Okay? Let's look at a lot of people who are famous, who came from behind bars. Yeah. Let's look at Al Pacino. Who don't know Al Pacino? Exactly. Al Pacino was behind bars for manslaughter and murder. He got his education behind bars, and now he's a great actor. Let's look at Bernard Hopkins, the boxer. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at Charles S. Dutton, who is a TV producer, writer, actor.
Shit, he beat somebody to death with his hands, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Okay. He was a state boxing champ.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at Malcolm X.
10 years, right? 10 years, I think it was.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Let's look at Malcolm X. Okay.
Yeah.
So jail and prison can be a saving.
Yeah.
But you cannot look for them to save you. You have to want to get your life together and get yourself together, because all it's going to be is a revolving door.
Yeah.
Okay. When when I was going back and forth behind bars, they would say, look, this jail door makes $40,000 per person that comes through. So you figure, okay, you got 10 people that come through that that cell door a month. Some bail out, some go to court, get sentenced to go downstate. Some sit there for a while. But that cell door is making money.
Yep.
People don't understand
That's
that.
crazy.
You have people that monopolize off of people's miseries in jail. And
private
locking
facility.
people up. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's big business. It becomes big business now.
Yeah. Once it became for profit, there's a wrap.
Yeah, it's big business now, man. It's big business, and it's modern day slavery. That's what it is. Modern day slavery now. It's modern day slavery because, like I said, it's to keep your mind frame to be of a low mentality and poor.
So you don't want to change.
Exactly. It's capitalism. You have to want to know how to change your mind and bring your mind to a stronger set in life.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, they're not going to do it for you.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to do it for you. And this is one thing I had to learn, and I'm yet learning. I would tell young people, man, trouble is easy to get into and hard to get out of. Okay? Right now, I'm trying to get my record expunged.
Yeah.
I have opportunities to work for the government, okay, to get it back into law and law enforcement and things like that. I have those opportunities, but I can't do it until my record is cleared up.
So let's touch on that. You have this newfound mentality. You feel like, you know, you want to go straight. You back up straight and narrow. What led you into the profession that you're in now?
What led me to the profession that I'm in now? Okay. One, I always
in the medical
had background.
profession, right?
Oh, the medical profession.
You're in the medical profession, right? Because in the picture, I see you got scrubs on in the picture, right?
Yeah.
It's half.
Okay. Well, I started working in a hospital because I moved to Delaware. I'm here in Delaware right now, and actually they called me and asked me would I like to work in a hospital, working as an environmental service technician. That's basically doing maintenance. Okay, doing maintenance in the hospital, and I started doing that, working in the ORs, the women and children's. Working in the ORs, cleaning the ORs, and cleaning the peri-op or pre-operation unit, high-risk unit, and the labor and delivery unit.
So how was that during
That was my job.
The whole pandemic? I'm sure that was crazy, just to clean up on that.
I even had to clean some of the ISO rooms, COVID-19 rooms, which is very strict and very that could be a mind-boggling thing. I don't know if you're a religious person, but it made me think about how back in the Bible days, God told the prophets or the priests how to enter the Holy of Holies. One little slip up, and it could get you COVID-19. Okay, it's serious.
Yeah.
It's serious. See, I'm gonna give you the straight facts about the thing, COVID-19. Okay, you can't just enter a room of a person that has COVID-19.
Yeah.
Even with proper PPE on. Okay. Even if they die, after they die, or after they leave that room, you cannot just enter that room.
Yeah.
You have to wait an hour and a half to 2 hours before you enter that room with the proper PPE on. And then you have to sterilize everything, clean everything down, and then make sure that you UV light the room.
Yeah.
To finally sterilize the room after you cleaned everything down.
Yeah. That's man, that's so a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that doesn't even believe in the coronavirus. Like,
Well,
I just don't understand how
I
you
know.
can
I know.
sit here and
I'm gonna
not
tell you.
believe in this.
I'm gonna
Like,
tell you. I met a lot of people like that. I tell you. I'll tell you what. Come to the hospital where I work. Come to the back of the hospital, down that ramp, and you'll see a lot of the people coming out in body bags, including babies. Okay, I've seen them. I've seen babies die of COVID-19, newborn babies, because their mother had it, or they contracted the COVID-19, and I've seen them die, and there was nothing that could be done.
and then these people out here partying, just acting like it's nothing, taking it home to their family, their friends. That person's taking it to the next person, and so forth and so forth.
Joke. They think it's a joke. Well, I'm gonna go even deeper. Number one, let's look at it like this. The Bible says this: if the head is sick, the heart is faint. Okay. Now, I'm gonna go on this. If our current president didn't take it seriously, why would people take it seriously?
Yeah.
If our current president downplayed it,
Yeah.
you're gonna have certain people downplay it. Okay.
Yeah, that
now,
turned out for
I
him.
won't go even deeper. I didn't think he said to drink Lysol or bleach and inject yourself with bleach and use a UV light. I didn't think he said that. I said, no, he's got to be a little smarter than that. Okay? Until literally, my brother, literally, people down here in Delaware, Newcastle, Newark, they say Newark, not Newark, Newark, Christiana Hospital were coming in, inhaling and drinking bleach and Lysol, man. I said, what the hell? Okay. All right. And then I saw the video where he said that. So I said, this is the craziest thing I ever heard of seen. Okay. I've seen people come in, they try to use UV lights on their skin, okay, and go blind. Because with a UV light, you cannot put it on your skin and you cannot look at the light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You have to leave the room once you put UV light on. You have to leave the room.
Yeah. So
I've seen people do some of the stupidest things with that, man.
This is crazy. So, all right, if you had one message, everything you've been through, as you rode that roller coaster, man. You're in a great place now. What message can we give to these young cats coming up, man, that thinks that the glitz and the glamour is the route that they're gonna go?
Okay. I'm glad you asked that question, because people ask me that, and a couple of females that I grew up asked me that same question. Okay? Number one, I would tell them this. Stay with God. Put God in your life first. The Bible and the Holy Quran says, trust in the Lord thy God. Lean not to your own understanding or way of thinking. In all your ways, acknowledge him. Then you will have true honor and true success, because he will acknowledge you. Okay? I often hear a lot of young folk tell me they want to be like me. Because like I said, like you said, I've been up and down on that roller coaster, the good, the bad, this and that. I tell them, no, don't be like me. Be better than me. You don't know what I had to go through or have to go through to be where I'm at today. You know, even around here where I live, I have a lot of young folk that I talk to. God gives me certain messages to give to them. And I don't even know them. I just moved around here. I tell them, look, this is what God is saying for you. To do this, do this, do that. get back into school, go to this school, go to real estate school. You're going to be a music producer. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And they say, wow, I was just thinking about going back to school for that. I said, look, God is telling me that's what he wants you to do, you know? And then I have some of them around here tell me, look, man, I want to be just like you. Nah, you don't want to be like me because you don't want to go through things that I had to go through.
Yeah.
Things I have seen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
man.
Tell them that, you know. I would definitely tell them that. I tell them that. Yeah. I tell every young person I see that, man. Because I've seen and I witnessed a lot of young folk, man, trying to be down with the gang thing, the Bloods, the Crips, and all that, man. They talk that gang stuff, man, throwing up signs, and they don't even know what the signs are really about. Yeah. Okay? Number one, I try to teach people on that and tell them, those signs that you throwing, all that stuff, man, you know, that's satanic signs. So you're making your allegiance to Satan. They'll tell you, oh, that's gang signs. This. No, man. That's satanic signs. The white supremacists are throwing up the same signs that you throwing up. The Masons, the Eastern Stars, they throwing up those same signs. Those are satanic signs. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. Because they just follow us. It's just a bunch of sheep. It's just a bunch of sheep. Yeah. That's all it is. But we could go way left with that one. I definitely feel like I need to bring you back on because I feel like there's a lot of stuff we haven't touched on. I know this video is long and people have short attention spans sometimes and shit. So I definitely want to bring you on for another part 2 and really get into how your power, positivity, and you know, your belief help you get back on the right track. Because there's a lot of people that feel like, you know, I've been to jail. There's nothing going to work for me. I'm not going to be able to get a job. I'm not going to be able to do this. You know, they feel like they started, you know, 5 steps behind.
I tell them like this, 2 things. Because I'm there at times too. You have to keep your mind positive. Yeah. As a man thinking, so is he. That's what the Bible says. Yeah. What we think of ourselves, that's what we're going to be. Yeah. Okay? So if you begin to think positive of yourself and that you're going to make it, then you can make it. The average hustler, the average billionaire got their millions before they had their high school diploma. Some of them came from behind bars. Yeah. So why can't you make it?
Exactly.
Of course, you're going to have obstacles in your life to step on your neck, especially if you're Black, Hispanic, Chinese, Oriental, Asian, whatever. If you're not of white privilege or white supremacy, you're going to have things that are on your neck to oppress you.
Yeah, thanks.
We have to learn how to break away from those things. We have to learn the strategy of our enemy. We have to learn the strategy of how to maneuver now. And fight our enemy. Okay, it's like Tupac said in his last song he wrote, Staring at the World Through His Rearview. He said, once you learn the levels and the rules of the game ain't a game to be played no more. Life is a beat. You got to know how to roll the dice with the game.
Yeah.
And that's basically the thing I would tell people, man. You can make it. You got to know you got to push. That's it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a fight. Anything you want in life that's positive is going to come a struggle because evil, Satan, does not want you to do what's right. He wants to hold you back. He wants to bring you and drag you to hell with him and take your soul with him to hell. See, hell is his prison. It's not meant for us. That was meant for the fallen angels and him to go to hell, which is the prison for angels, fallen angels. No. But hell hath enlarged itself because man chose to follow Satan. No. You know?
Fact.
So, you know, that's what I would tell people, man. You don't have to. You don't have to accept your poverty. You don't have to accept your oppression. You have to learn how to rise above it. change your mentality and your way of thinking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I definitely agree with you, man. Well, on that note, again, I greatly appreciate you coming on. I mean, you didn't have to. We haven't had the chance to meet in real life, and for you to come on and support my channel. It's just a small upcoming channel. I really appreciate it. I mean, you have a positive message. I definitely want to have you back on so we can touch again on your path.
Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Your show is going to flourish and expand. Next year is going to be even greater for you.
I hope so, man. I hope so. I put a lot of work into it, man. I hope so.
Next year, summertime is going to be even greater for you.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Most definitely, brother.
For real.
Most definitely.
Don't be a stranger, man.
You know it.
I appreciate you coming on. See this picture right there? Oh, I don't know. Did you hang up already?
Thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for having me on.
Man, the pleasure was all mine.
Thank you for having me on. No problem. Anytime.
Before we go, do you want to put any your social media? Is there anything you want to put out there for people to reach out to you if they want to speak with you? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Went back down.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Did you hear what I said?
There we go. It just went back up. Okay. I didn't catch the last of what you just said, though.
Is there any, do you want to share your social media just in case anybody wants to reach out to you and,
Okay, no problem. They can reach out. They can reach out to me on Facebook. My name, Rigney Hood. You can look me up on Instagram, Rigney Hood, Twitter, Rigney Hood. Or if you want to reach out to me, you can even go to hoodrigney@gmail.com.
Spell your name real quick for them just in case they're not catching it. Or spell the whole, just one since they all the same thing, but just
HOODRIGNEY. That's my name, my last name and my first name @gmail.com. You can even look me up on Facebook, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Rigney Hood.
Y'all go ahead, hit him up. If you have any questions, anything you want to discuss with him, he's the man. Again, I appreciate you coming on. If they only knew, like, subscribe.
I don't want you touching my
deep thoughts. Sometimes I feel off, think about giving up, but I think about my kids and all the shit I did. I can't take that back. Now all I got is consequences, whole stabbing me in my back. Started having these deep thoughts. Sometimes I feel off, think about giving up, but I think about my kids and all the shit I did. I can't take that back. Now all I got is consequences, whole stabbing me in my back. I left in them drugs, I almost gave up. Thought everybody was talking about, they tried to show me love. Did a lot of dirty shit, hit the ones I really love. Attitude fucked up, living with a lot of guilt. Cause my sister got killed, she died in front of me. She died in front of me, this pain run deep. Long nights don't sleep, I'm tossing and turning.
Run up when you see me, then we gon' see.
Wait, hold up. You telling me you never heard about ITOK?
Nah, man.
If they only knew?
Nah, I haven't.
Come on, man. Joe Chapo.
Man, let me see.
Right on the hill?
Nah.
Yeah, the ones from the Bronx.
What?
Yeah, they're the truth of the streets.
For real?
Watch.
Man, let me see that
Look
shit.
at me.
Yo, I see that shit. Oh, shit.
New York till they die.
What?
Repping every day.
BX?
ITOK, you watch, coming in hot from the BS to the block. We got Joe Chapo and Light on the Hill. You know the drill. Hit that like button, you know the deal. Yeah, we the truth of the streets. If they only knew. We the truth of the streets. If they only knew. We the truth of the streets. We the truth of the streets. We the truth of the streets.
This is not what I would have chosen for her. She was alive for 5 days. She deserved more than a mass burial. Anyone deserves. There's a million people there, and there's a million stories to be told. Just see where it is. And why is this hard? Why has Hart Island been such a secret?
Off the coast of the Bronx in Long Island Sound, it's a small island where 1 million people are buried. But there's no grave markers with the names of the dead. There are no Memorial Day ceremonies for the veterans buried out there. There are no flowers on the graves. It is New York City's Potter's Field. It's the final resting place for people whose families were too poor for a private burial, people who died alone or in prison, infants, stillborns, people whose deaths threw their families into despair and chaos and just didn't know what to do and were lost in the system. And for 150 years, the place and the secrets it's hold literally held under lock and key. The bodies are buried by prisoners, and it's run like a prison by the Department of Correction. It's easier to get to Rikers Island than it is to Hart Island. I was able to take a tour of Hart Island at a time when slowly the secrets of Hart Island, after 150 years, are starting to be told. Going into Hart Island of Lost Souls. Now, besides Potter's Field, Hart Island is housed a Civil War prison for Confederate soldiers, a tuberculosis ward, an asylum, drug rehab facilities, a Nike missile base. Every building on this island is grown. Phoenix House, a drug rehab center in the 60s and 70s. You can see big Phoenix, the rising Phoenix mural painted on the brick wall there. Each one of these stone markers represents 150 people, buried in 2 rows, 3 deep. Just a number. This one is 288. More recent markers are made out of PVC. There's not a lot of visible signs out here that this is even a cemetery. We do have this cross that was built by prisoners who work out here who bury the bodies. The bodies are buried by prisoners. When they fill 150, they fill in the trench. We had to turn our cameras off and went up to the trench, which was half full. So there were 3 stack high bodies in this trench that had not been filled yet. One of the things that strikes me about this place is how incredibly peaceful it really is. Sad and peaceful at the same time. Melinda Hunt heads the Hart Island Project. This is an effort to catalog the people who are buried out there, tell the people's stories, and she's fighting to lift the stigma on a Potter's Field burial. She says having the facility run like a prison doesn't help.
A city burial just means that the family, for whatever reason, did not hire a private funeral director. That's what unclaimed means. It doesn't mean these people don't have families and people that didn't care. It's just that in New York City, it's very easy to become disconnected. And a lot of times people just feel overwhelmed by a death, and they're not given very much time to make arrangements.
Herbert Sweat's story is one of those. He was off fighting in Vietnam when his wife, 17 years old at the time, gave birth to twins. One of those twins, Aisha, died soon after childbirth. By the time he got home, his distraught wife had signed on a city burial, not knowing what that meant.
Naturally, by her being so young and immature to the procedures and what is Hart Island and where is it, and they didn't inform her properly.
Elaine Joseph's baby, Tamika, is among those buried on Hart Island. Tamika was born prematurely at Beth Israel Hospital during the blizzard of 1978. Total chaos in the city. The baby was transferred to Mount Sinai for emergency heart surgery, but died of cardiac arrest.
They told me there's no staff in the morgue. Call back in a few days. I kept calling. It took like a week and a half, and they finally said, the body's gone. I said, what do you mean the body's gone? They said, well, don't worry. The city will take care of it. She'll be buried with other babies and stillborns. My daughter's on Potter's Field. Potter's Field, the bums are buried there, indigents, people who had no families, unknowns. My daughter was not a bum. My daughter was not a pauper. She was a human being whose body got lost and got buried there, and her mother couldn't find her for 30 years. She doesn't deserve to have a stigma behind her. No one does.
So why did it take 30 years for Elaine Joseph to finally be able to visit the gravesite of her daughter? And why is Herbert Sweat still waiting to visit his daughter's gravesite?
Man, I got something for y'all, man. Know y'all ain't, you know what I'm saying? I know y'all been waiting on me shit like that. All right, back at y'all, man. My birthday today, man. Y'all turn me up, man. You know what I'm saying? I want to give a shout out myself. Shit, man. It's been a grind, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? My day, you feel me? Y'all niggas turn up 14, you know what I'm saying? Let's get it. Hey.
That's how I'm feeling when I'm chilling, and my mind on the milli. I can't let the devil get me. Gotta keep that fire with me in my left pocket. Hollow tip for make a halo. If a nigga wanna play though, I just put a 3 up in the 20. Shit that they like Play-Doh. I hit her one time, she came back just like a yo-yo. Used to get full of momo. Pulling up on a nigga like you remember me. I ain't gotta say nothing, money talk for me. Last thing on my mind is my enemy. I just made a big road playing Boosie B. In that fun thing with the leather seats. If I pay for the pussy, this shit ain't for me. Remember getting full of them drugs and starting beats. To come to think about it, them niggas didn't really like me. I'm fly just like a bird and let me pop my shit. I just flew past a hater in my foreign bitch. I'm going in like a drop kick. Plus I'm longer than a mouse stick. Niggas throwing salt, riding dick. Solo till I go, I'm on my fast shit. Fuck her but don't love her on my mad shit. Let's keep it street, you ain't street, you just walked in it. I ain't trying gangster around 20, you need to stop tripping. I had a heart on my time, penny. It's a crazy world that we live in. Click full of soldiers, but who will it with you? When the shit the fan, he your co-defendant. Sometimes I feel lost in this dirty world. Free my nigga Earl, I just wanna make it home to see my sons and my girl. If it's a problem, put that pussy for a check. I want my respect, put diamonds on my neck while he fled. I hear the nigga rapping, they lame it in the bit. I was on the ground, and every nigga pick, every cap. I really got out the mud. Hoes, they be ratchet. They gon' love you when they come. Them thoughts don't get a crumb. Serving dope the bone. Trying to come up. My cousin fucked the dope up. I couldn't trust the soul. Fell in love with the hoe. I guess I'm cutthroat. Remember my cousin Tim, small the house of dope. Every time I'm in my time, I gotta hit my cousin smoke. Never catch him, bro. You gotta get it gone. My cousin Nene, she gon' ride for me. You better get that bitch, she tryna slide for me. Niggas on the move, niggas love to leech. My brother told me when I rap, it sound like I be preaching. I told him it's a blessing. Hope these niggas get the message.
Pump your belly. 2.